What happened in your journey that made you become so passionate about the continent? Because sometimes, I mean, I'm passionate about the continent, but sometimes you just get frustrated at circumstances and you think, why is this happening? Like, are people really doing this? What has continued for you to be still passionate, still advocating, still promoting the continent and this Pan-Africanism? What happened in your journey that made you this way and how you are?
I think growing up in apartheid Zimbabwe, well, Rhodesia at that time, to have been surrounded by injustices of the highest order, to be abused and mistreated in your own homeland by strangers, by foreigners who don't belong there, and feel completely powerless was a very painful thing. But more importantly for me, I was raised by a father who was old enough to remember when our land was taken by the British. People are not aware that, well, some may be. Britain had what they call the Loot Law, where if you were a veteran of the First or Second World War, or just an adventurous Briton, you were guaranteed 2,000 hectares of land. Hectares! So take 2,000 times 2.2. That's almost like 4,400 hectares of land in Zimbabwe, plus any loot from the people. So what they had done was they divide the country into 4 sections, 4 regions. Region 1, good rains, good soil, perfect area to grow and farm and thrive. Region 2, pretty close to Region 1, maybe not as good, but also pretty good. Region 3 was kind of iffy, more good for cattle ranching. Region 4, nobody should live there. Infested with mosquitoes and tsetse flies and all that, and it doesn't rain. If it rains, within 30 minutes, the soil was like sand. You can't even tell that it has rained. So they set out to push black people in Rhodesia at that time from Region 1 and 2 into, if you're lucky, you ended up in Region 3, and then, but they definitely wanted us in Region 4. And so the way they would push people up, if you were a British man who landed in Zimbabwe, they were pushing them to go to Region 1 and Region 2. You were just sent into a particular direction. You put a peg, you get on a horse, and you ride until either you or the horse got tired. You stop and you put your peg. That's day 1. The following day you do the same thing. So it took 4 days to map up your land. And when you're finished, everything in it is yours minus the people. So they'll just go in and tell the people, in this direction, go past this mountain, in this direction, go past this river, your land is now mine. People left with whatever they could carry. My father was a young boy of about 13. He remembers waking up in the morning, and back then Zimbabweans would wear a little flap on the front and back. They didn't wear pants. So the white men with their pants, they called them the men without knees. So you remember seeing men without knees on a horse, touching the huts. The whole village was ablaze. One hut was left standing. It turned out my father's aunt was pregnant and was due to deliver any day. So they had asked for permission for her to stay until she delivered. So permission was granted for the husband, her, and another aunt, a grandmother who was the midwife. And they decided maybe if we leave a child, they will have mercy on them and not kill them. So they decided to keep my father, who was around 12, 13 years of age. And he remembers having this one little hut left standing. The entire village was just bent down. And every morning, the men without knees would come on a horse wanting to know if my aunt had delivered. Unfortunately for them, it took 3 weeks before she finally delivered. And every morning, the men without knees came. They just knew that was their last day. They were afraid that he was going to shoot them, because he threatened to shoot them if she didn't deliver. 3 days after she delivered, they had to walk, go find the rest of the family members. Unfortunately for them, no sooner had they regrouped, here comes another man without knees. He mapped out his land, just keep moving. So that's the story I kept being told by my father. And he would always end with, one of these days, we will get our land back. And I'm so glad that he lived to see us get our land back. When I hear people talk about, oh, Mugabe and how the land was taken, it wasn't fair, and I'm like, give me 5 minutes. Let me tell you how the land was taken from Zimbabwean people. What Mugabe did was very civilized. If you were to live what my father lived through, you'd understand why what Mugabe did was civilized. There were parts of Harare, you go in just maybe 2 blocks into Harare, that's how far we could go. The rest you were not supposed to get to. I remember in high school, I belonged to some Girl Scouts group, and we were invited to go to some white woman's house. We were told to leave, to sit under the tree. It was very hot, I still remember that. But little white girls who were with us, they could go inside, they could cool off, they could drink cold water, and we would be given hot water, and we would drink and eat from under the tree. And I would wonder, I said, why is it that these little white girls can go in the house where it's cool, and I gotta sit under the tree? And so the injustices were everywhere. You know, some of the school teachers in my boarding school, we had British teachers, Peace Corps, we had Australian, New Zealanders, Americans. The Americans were the best, I have to tell you. The British they made it very clear, you belong over there and we are over here. And so you knew your boundaries. Thank goodness the American ones were very super nice. I mean, they were the type that would want to come to your village with you and go fetch firewood and fetch water. They were very interested in getting to know who we were. They would invite you to their homes, a teacher inviting you to their house for tea. That was unheard of. But that was during the time that the United States realized that they were missing out on Africa. So this scramble for Africa was happening. So they sent Peace Corps, specifically trained to make friends. And I must say those Peace Corps did a damn good job. So I grew up with a very good and warm, fuzzy feeling about the Americans because of my Peace Corps teachers. But the British, whew, they were terrible. So it is that distinct difference between us and particularly the British and what I grew up being told by my father. I must say I had a lot of resentment and a lot of anger and just wondered, why is it that we have to live like we do in our own land and these foreigners are coming in and abusing us? You know, we could share, we could live together in harmony, but no, they wanted it all. And we were slaves in our own country. That was very painful.
You mentioned about injustice.
Yes.
Do you still see injustice now on the African continent?
Very much so. I think I'm even acutely aware of it. It's everywhere. One diaspora was visiting with me in Zimbabwe, and he was at a gas station, and there was this white woman smoking at the gas station. So he walked over to her, and he was from Zimbabwe, and he, you know, how we are greeting our elders, and he says in Shona, "Ma'am, how are you?" He's saying it in Shona. And the woman says, "I don't understand you." And the guy said, again, I said, "How are you?" in Shona. "I don't understand you." And the guy says, "Well, let me talk to you in a language that you understand. Turn that damn cigarette off." "What are you talking about?" He said, "This is a gas station. Turn off the damn cigarette." "You're very rude. Get away from me. Get away from me." He says, "Are you done? I have all day, if that's what it takes. Turn off the damn cigarette." She proceeded to yell at him and calling him all kinds of names, and he stood his ground. He said, "I am not leaving until you turn off that cigarette. This is a gas station. You have no business smoking here." You still see it. There are still some who still feel superior to us. Fortunately, it's not many, but there's still a significant number of them who are still that way. I would like to think that we are in a better place as humanity, but unfortunately there's still a significant number of those who don't look like you and I who are still quite racist and cannot accept the fact that we are equal as human beings. That for me is a sad reality, but that also makes me be more determined to let them know that we are the original people. We are the mothers and fathers of humanity, and that without me, there wouldn't be you. And that's a fact. And there's nothing you can do about it. Take it to the bank.